Okay guys, so this thing here, this is a strain wave gear mount, also known as harmonic drive mount. It has a strain wave gear in right ascension and in declination, and it uses type 14 drives, which on paper is basically the same specifications as something like the ZWO AM3 mount, which costs something like $1,500, $1,600 US. But this thing here cost me, I bought it on AliExpress, and it cost me $500 US, 3 times less than another mount that on paper has similar specifications. So yeah, this is extremely cheap, and so I decided I don't need it, but I decided at this price I have to get it, I have to test it, and I have to tell you about it if it's any good. And because you're watching this video, it is any good. That doesn't mean there are not bad things about it, but I'll get to that in this review. So if you buy the mount, again $500 US, I don't know about tariffs in the United States, for instance. It comes with the wedge. The wedge is attached via just 2 screws and a plate to the actual mount mechanism itself, and then you put your telescope on the Vixen dovetail plate here at the top. I'm a bit worried about the attachment points there. The first thing I did was tighten those screws as much as possible, just to be safe. But otherwise, it seems to be workable. This thing is actually also surprisingly light. It's 2.3 kilograms when I measured it on my scale, which makes it one of the lightest mounts I've ever tested. And at the base, we have a 3/8 of an inch adapter here, which means that you can use any tripod with a 3/8 of an inch connection to put the mount on. On the side of the mount, we have an on-off button, which actually doesn't do what you think it does. We have a DC 12-volt input, and then we have a USB-C port to actually control the mount. There are 2 versions of this mount. One has 3D printed covers, this one, and the other one for I think $80 more or $70 more, you get actual aluminum covers, so a bit better. For me, I went the cheap way because I'm a cheap, lazy geek. So here we are. So let me put that on a tripod to show you how it looks in that case. Okay, so this was just a matter of screwing it into the tripod itself, which in this case is a ZWO TC40 tripod. And now we have the mount ready. By the way, it came in a box, a protective box there that also included a USB-C cable, okay, cool, and a very dubious looking counterweight shaft with no toe defender at the end. You do have a port there to connect your little tiny counterweight shaft, although I probably would never be using it, although maybe, who knows, maybe it could make the tracking a bit better than what I've experienced, but more on that a bit later. So let me power it on. To do that, I'll be using just a portable battery because, as you can tell, this thing can be ultra portable. You can use it with a tiny tripod, and it will work if you use it together with, a tiny telescope, SQF55, the SVBony SV555 was it, a lens like the Rokinon or the Samyang 130mm, 35mm f2 lens, that kind of stuff. So it's really, like, to me, when I see this and see this available at such a low price on AliExpress, I don't see the point of something like the Skywatcher Star Adventure GTI was the name, I think. Because this thing, I don't need to bring any counterweight with me. I don't need that little tiny counterweight bar or anything like that. It's a strain wave gear mount. Anyway, let me power it on. Okay, it's on, and it's powered on simply by plugging it in. This button here does not power the mount on. It actually powers a laser here. I don't know if you can see it. Yes, you can. A laser here for polar alignment. It's a green laser, which means that I am not actually sure whether it's legal to use that in Japan, which means that after this video, I'll actually be putting a plug on top of the laser to make sure that I never use it. For now, I've just used electrician's tape on top to make sure that I don't have it. But if you are in a country where it's okay to use lasers like that for polar alignment, it can be useful. I've been using it with the ZWO ASI 2600 MC Air, which includes the ASI Air functionality, and so using that to do the polar alignment. So that's what this mystery button was doing. It's not to turn on or off the mount. And then the USB-C is going to be to control it, but you can actually connect to it over Wi-Fi or over Bluetooth as well. Those are two options that are available, and it uses the standard on-step drivers like a lot of those other Chinese mounts. The EM31 Pro does, the WD20 does, the Proxy Sky mounts do as well. And so it comes with all of the advantages and drawbacks of on-step. In particular, for meridian flip, you cannot image through the meridian with this mount. You have to pause before meridian and then do the flip 5 minutes, let's say, after the meridian, and then start imaging again, which is something like the ASI Air does without issue. I was able to also make it work with Nina with no problem on the first try. So there's no big issue there. It's just that you will not be able to image through the meridian. Although if you use the ASI Air, you cannot image through the meridian in the first place, so it doesn't really matter. But because it's on-step and it has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, I can connect to it via the standard on-step app. I would recommend not touching any of the settings. The default settings that it came with, including the meridian limits, are exactly what you need for doing a meridian flip, where you stop 5 minutes before the meridian and you start again 5 minutes after the meridian to do your flip and start imaging. And the only thing you would touch would be the horizon limits if you need to do so. Otherwise, I would leave it untouched. But here I am with the app connected to this mount, and I am able, it's very slow, and that's one of the things with this mount. It moves at only 2 degrees or 2.5 degrees roughly per minute. But hopefully you'll be able to see that while I've been talking here, saying nothing in particular, it has moved a little bit there, and I can tell it to go back home directly from this application. There it is, return home, okay, and it's returning home at 2.3, 2.4 degrees per second. It's not the fastest equatorial mount there is, but it works, and as you can tell, it's very silent. So that's also a nice little bonus. Now let's talk a little bit about the base here for polar alignment. I'm going to actually unplug the mount. It's very, very basic. So we have, for the altitude adjustment, we have an altitude lock that I would recommend actually keeping as locked as much as possible all the time, because even if it's fully locked, it avoids wobble, and you can still change the altitude with this single screw here. The altitude adjustments are actually no problem whatsoever with this mount. I was surprised it worked fine. No problem that I could find with the altitude adjustment. Just make sure you're always locked as much as possible with the locking lever, and you're fine. The azimuth adjustment uses a central pin there with the usual 2 screws on the side, and the locking screws are this guy here, and on the other side, that guy here. Those locking screws, they're the only things that actually attach this red area to the black area that connects to the tripod underneath. So if you are not locked in properly with those 2 screws on the side, the mount will actually wobble up and down because there's some tilt between the dark plate here attached to the tripod and the red area of the mount. So you really want to make sure that those 2 knobs are always somewhat locked, and only then do you change the azimuth. But the problem with that is that those knobs, they're kind of difficult in the darkness to use properly. You do want to tighten them down a lot to avoid the whole equipment wobbling on top of the mount. And if you're like in the cold using gloves or something like that, it's going to be a nightmare. So what I've been doing is just like tightening them like as much as I can, finger tight, and only then use the 2 screws at the front here to adjust the azimuth. But that meant that sometimes it was really hard to move things properly, and adjusting the azimuth has been a bit frustrating with this mount. My polar alignment was done with this mount after typically 3 to 5 minutes. So it's not the end of the world, but something to keep in mind. I'm pretty sure that the ZWO AM3 has much better wedge for polar alignment. And yeah, so this mount, of course, I'll have all of the links down in the description to AliExpress if you want to buy this mount. It currently says that it's on sale, 50% off, and that's what the price I bought it for, $500 US. So I'm thinking of this mount as a $500 US mount. If it's $1,000 US, I would say no, just go for the AM3, or a Proxy Sky mount. But at $500 that's like, this thing is a complete no-brainer. Let me go into the guiding results a little bit later, but first let me also show you how to connect the scope to it. One thing to note is that the dovetail plate that it comes with, it's changeable, you can change it to something else, but it's one of those dovetail plates where you cannot put the dovetail from above like that, you have to slide it in. So you have any dovetail that has like stoppers at the front and back, like a lot of time with Skywatcher, OTS, for instance, you need to remove those before being able to insert that into this, this dovetail saddle. Just something to keep in mind. So for instance, I can take this telescope, this is the ASCAR FRA 400C that I'm currently testing, and just insert it here from the front before locking. I don't really care about balance. The mount is actually fine. And on the specs of this mount, it says that it can support up to 10 kilograms without counterweight, which, you know, I'm sure it's true, but I don't want to try it because, yeah, this connection at the base, I'm fine without trying it. And also, like at this weight and size, it's really not made as something that you want to really push, but something that you want to be able to, you know, take with you on travel, that kind of stuff, together with a relatively small battery, like something like this, which I've been able to use this setup for something like 5 hours, just with this, cooling the camera to, like with the cooler power at like 80–85% all the time, so pretty intense stuff. And with the telescope attached like that, what I'm pleased to see is, at least with everything well tightened down, there's very little wobble there, and it's perfectly stable. And actually my tests, the test results that I'll show you, I've run them during a night with quite a bit of wind, and it performed decently despite that wind. So pretty cool stuff here. But now we are ready to look at the results. And by the way, this is not a full review of the mount. I haven't done like the PhD guiding assistant with it. I haven't done like tests with video to make sure the stars are not wobbling like crazy. I have taken some pictures with the SQF55, with the FRA 400C, and I could see the star shapes were beautiful, no issues, despite the fact that the guiding figures are a bit higher than what I'm used to with strain wave gear mounts. But, you know, enough talking about that, let's go and look at those results on the computer. But before we do that, obviously making all of those videos, testing all of this equipment is a lot of work. And if you want to encourage my work, you can leave a like on the video, watch till the end. It really helps the channel out. You can also leave a comment down below. What do you think of this mount at $500 US? Will you jump on it? Let us know. And if you want to support the channel even more and you're planning on buying anything from Amazon, Agena, High Point Scientific, etc., if you do so after clicking one of the links down in the description, where I will have the link to this mount as well, it will help me out at no cost to you. And if you want to sponsor the channel directly, make all of this work and those videos possible, you can become a Patreon member. The link is down in the description. Some of my Patreon ranks have access to my videos early and without ads. Or you can become a YouTube channel member using the join button next to the subscribe button. Anyway, let's get inside and look at those nice results. Okay, so let me first show you in PhD2 the results of a very standard, typical session of guiding that I had with this little mount. And this is taken with the ASI Air, so using the ASI Air guiding software, which is basically a stripped down version of PhD2. First, the end result you can see is 1 arcsecond of guiding across the night. And at the same time, you can see that declination doesn't have any issues really at 0.4, but right ascension is where we lose a lot of our precision. So the tracking of stars is a bit difficult at 0.94 arcseconds. And you can see very clearly the blue line, which is the right ascension movement. Even though the guiding is trying its best to bring back the mount in line, the blue line is wavy. So there is this kind of period that the strain wave gear drive has that the guiding software has trouble fighting against. And that tells me that it's likely that it would work better with something like PPEC algorithm in PhD2, but that is not available on the ASI Air. I haven't tested PPEC yet on this mount, although I plan to see whether it could help. But you can see that definitely there's a lot of these RA fluctuations. And to show you how it looks like in real life, this is a screenshot while I was guiding, and you can see like every single guide impulse is to tell the right ascension to go back to center. But the right ascension actually never does that because it's trying to actually go away from center due to the strain wave gear drives in the mount. And I put the RA aggressiveness to 110%. I think I should be doing even a bit more. And this reminds me a lot of the mount from Proxy Sky that I tested that also liked to have a very high RA aggressiveness. At this stage though, we get, this is what I would typically see directly when checking on the ESI Air, something like 0.65 arc seconds, or here 0.48 arc seconds, even though you see again the guide is trying to just like move the RA back to center, and here 0.47 arc seconds. So overall it looked really nice to me when I was checking on the ESI Air, although yeah, with the PhD2 log viewer it tells me it was a bit worse than that, but it is what it is. So now let me just quickly show you the raw right ascension chart, which looks like this. So very steep curves there, like the RA tries to move quite a lot. And the frequency analysis tells us that basically every 440 seconds, like we have this period of 440 seconds with a pretty large peak of plus minus 159 arc seconds peak to peak. So that's very large, and you definitely need to guide, and you need to guide quite aggressively. Still, 1 arc seconds is pretty nice, especially when you consider that this mount will be used, or I would suggest that it is used for smaller refractors for really high portability rigs. Like my rig with the SQF55, the 2600 MC Air, and the battery plus the tripod was around 8 kilograms total for a cooled, full-fledged astrophotography rig. That's very impressive in my opinion. So if you have any suggestions for me about how I could improve that, or you own this mount already and you already have like some suggestions, let me know down in the comments. It would really help me out. By the way, you can see this is the mount as it is on AliExpress. And you can see it's currently down from $1,000 to $485 US, which is crazy. It's only, 21 hours left. I guess I need to publish this video quickly, don't I? I definitely would recommend this mount for sub $500 US. It's a no-brainer to me. It just makes sense. You get a light strain wave gear mount that just works. Oh, and by the way, this reminds me when I say that just works, there's no breaks in RA or declination axis for if you lose power. That said, with the SQF55, I put it at quite a steep angle on this side of RA, then removed the plug, and it didn't move, didn't budge. So for small telescopes, it shouldn't be a problem without any breaks. But yeah, $500 US, strain wave gear mount, 2.3 kilograms, pair it with a light tripod, light battery, light telescope, and a control center like the Stella Vita or the ESI Air, or what I was using on the FRA 400C, which is the Gaius S2 Windows-based PC. You can get like some really impressively small package and it's impressive light package. So definitely recommended at the current price, not recommended at $1,000 US, basically. Let us know in the comments what you think of this mount. Leave a like on the video, it really helps the channel out. And thank you for watching till the end. And again, if you want to support me and you're planning on buying anything from Agena, High Point, Amazon, etc., if you do so after clicking one of the links that I have down in the description, it will help me out at no cost to you. You can also sponsor the channel directly as a YouTube member or a Patreon member. You guys, thank you so much for your support. You make all of this possible. With that, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget whenever you can to look up at the stars, and I'll see you next time.